Brought to you by...
Throughout history, there have always been tales as old as time. Stories that have been told and retold through generations, that have gained such notoriety that they are now considered legend. The tale of Ichabod Crane was a story that I grew up with as a young stuffy, usually revisiting it around the spookiest time of year, when the leaves faded into the beauty of autumn and the nights grew longer. So what better way to celebrate Halloween than with a return to Sleepy Hollow? Hello friends, and welcome back to ETF. Today we are sent off with Constable Crane to investigate murder in a small town. 2 days' journey to the north, where we will become wrapped up within a mystery that is beyond logic or reason. The legend of Sleepy Hollow is a story that has withstood the test of time. A haunting urban legend that has been passed down through the generations and has left its mark on a small community that still celebrates its infamy to this day. There is something inherently gothic about the idea, which made the perfect choice for someone as uniquely suited as Tim Burton to take the reins. Now, I grew up, like most others, with the Disney adaptation of this story, The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad, 2 short animated films paired together as a sort of Halloween special. But I don't think it was until this film came to be that I truly began to appreciate the narrative itself. Of course, leave it to the graphically violent adaptation to pique my interest. Tim Burton chose to twist this story and its characters into a far grander tale, turning the bumbling and unattractive character of Crane into a meek and eccentric young man, a constable in New York with an affinity for modern scientific techniques of investigation. He is a character dropped into a still often barbaric society during the beginnings of the turn of the century, making him not just a stranger in a strange land by the time he reaches the grounds of Sleepy Hollow, but having been one from the very start of his life. The choice to make Crane into this type of character takes his otherwise simple story and begins to build it into a winding murder mystery with a dark and supernatural twist. A sort of whodunit tale that I feel enhances the experience to a new level. To no surprise from a Burton film, Johnny Depp steps into the role of Ichabod, accompanied by an ensemble cast, including the lovely Christina Ricci, and now late Michael Gough, along with Casper Van Dien for a short while at least, and a handful of other faces that would later go on to populate the world of Harry Potter. Each of these actors delivers the powerful performances that we expect from them, playing off of one another's talents to an extraordinary effect. Burton allows these performances to even take on a very theatrical style, feeling a little more like they are playing to a seated audience than a camera. Each line is delivered with a theatricality and feels somehow romanticized to some degree, which I feel helps this story feel like the legend that it is. The film's score is composed by Danny Elfman, who has collaborated with Burton on nearly all of his films, delivering that haunting yet whimsical sound and tone that we all expect from a Burton film. However, here he takes a slightly different approach, using a haunting choir to create the eerie and ethereal sound that carries us through the story. Something about it just unsettles you to your core. The visual look of the film is consistent with much of Burton's style. The color palette of the film is dull and extremely muted, drained of life in most regards. The only colors presented are pops of reds, oranges, and yellows that deliver a warmth to moments of the film that otherwise feel like it's presented in black and white. which I actually would have enjoyed seeing. Until this most recent viewing, I didn't realize that the film was executive produced by none other than Francis Ford Coppola, which comes as a bit of a surprise to me in some ways, because I never really imagined him having a connection with Burton. And as it turns out, Burton didn't even know Coppola's company was involved until the editing stage, when he saw his name in the credits. Just goes to show you how fucking convoluted the film industry can be, I guess. This is one of those films where most of the special effects still hold up pretty well over time. I have always loved that moment when the fog reaches out from the western woods and gently extinguishes the flames of the torches that line the surrounding town. It's a simple effect, but it looks seamless still. Although I did rewatch it on VHS, so that may contribute to the reason that it looks so good. Another special effects element that I love is how every single decapitation throughout the film is shown on screen in all its glory. In most cases, a film would have cut away so that the effect would work properly. But here, we see every swing, impact, and head roll within the same frame of film, which for the time was an incredible feat to achieve. Despite the dark nature of this film, Burton has always found room for levity throughout the piece, allowing Johnny Depp to bring his natural wacky flair to the role of Crane, which now feels sort of like a stepping stone to what he would later bring to Jack Sparrow. I love that they worked in all the small details from the original cartoon, like the toads croaking Ichabod's name near the covered bridge, and even the Brahm connection to the horsemen. This one was particularly special to me because I always heard whispers that the hidden idea behind the old legend was that there was no horseman, and that Brahm was the one chasing Ichabod with the flaming pumpkin as a prank. So having Burton include this was a perfect touch for me. The one effect in the film that never felt right to me, and I feel still doesn't hold up well, has always been the googly eyes of the witch in the woods. That one just feels a little too over the top. It feels like it would have worked better if she was just chained up, talking in that voice from beneath the veil, and maybe not even seeing her face. What we get feels like it should have been in a 3D movie. My enjoyment of the film overall comes from Ichabod Crane himself. I find it beautifully fitting that Burton chose to turn this character from a simple man into a sort of terrified Sherlock Holmes type, even giving him an incredibly rich backstory that I wish had been mined even further than it was. These elements deliver a deep and tormented character, a man bound by logic and reason, seeking truth, even when faced with circumstances that are outside of those concepts. Burton lets this story play out very much like a work of literature, or a stage play, allowing the characters to be over the top and boisterous, while actions are overly theatrical in nature, which I feel was the right move for a story this wildly imaginative. He includes this underlying connection between Ichabod and the character of Katrina throughout the film, having something to do with this cottage where she grew up, and the drawings in the sand that her mother used to teach her, showing us that he had been taught the same things by his mother, which for a time had me wondering if there was supposed to be some form of familial relation between them. Watching it now, I wonder if the connection is through witchcraft. It's made pretty clear that his mother was into witchcraft, and that connection continues to the villain, who we ultimately learn to be a witch of sorts. So maybe his mother and Katrina's mother were part of the same coven. However, a more logical approach to this connection would lie in the psyche. Watching it this time, I began to wonder if the dreams and memories we are seeing are being influenced by the present. Perhaps Ichabod is bleeding elements from Katrina and the things that he is seeing and experiencing in the current situation, with the memories of his mother while he dreams. Ultimately, this connection is never fully explored, however, leaving us to ponder its intentions. Overall, this film feels very much like any other Burton film, enveloping us into that whimsical, albeit twisted theatrical style that he utilizes so well. It takes us on a horse-drawn ride into a darker version of the story that we grew up with in the Disney Ichabod and Mr. Toad, and creates a vicious and entertaining new legend. Personally, this is one I will always highly recommend, and likely always return to every now and then. Well, friends, that's gonna be all for now. I hope you enjoyed this discussion, and I hope it inspires you to go check out the film for yourself, or revisit it. I've placed a link down in the description on where you can get a copy for your collection. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, subscribe for more content, and if you really want to help support this channel, we do still have a Patreon, and every little bit helps this channel grow and gets us that much closer to being able to make these videos for you full time. Until next time, stay safe, and as always, thanks for watching.